Good evening, YouTube. You guys are now watching another segment of the TheCaliEffect. As you guys can see in the background, it's the the September 24th or the September 1st or however they went, the October 1st Forbidden List from October 1st, 2014 to the December 31st. Obviously, if you guys are seeing this video, the new list has not been out yet, but upon request, I actually cannot remember your name at this given time. Shout out to you that actually wanted to see my thoughts on the next Forbidden List. He wanted to know, like what I said, my thoughts on the Forbidden List, and it really got me thinking. This season, I did not want to do a ban list. As you guys could see, it's getting really close for us to have a list, and I haven't even thought about it, talked about it, touched about it whatsoever. Mainly because, I mean, from my perspective, if you look at this format, it's completely balanced. I know you guys are like, the fuck, TheCaliEffect? What are you talking about? There are 3 different decks. Now, granted, that's not what we had like last format or format before where there were multiple decks. But there are 3 competitive decks that you can choose from. And as we all know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is not a cheap poor man's game. So, of course, they're going to be expensive. Just be fortunate that you guys did not have to play, for the people that didn't have to play, in Teledad format where decks were $1,200 or it was $1,000 for a crush card, or not for a crush card, for a gold sarcophagus, or it was like $400 or $500. It was just outrageous prices for these cards. So, I mean, $300 to build a Burning Abyss deck, that seems not too bad, especially if you manage your resources like yours truly. You won't ever really be paying that much money ever to get something like that. So to be honest with you guys, I wouldn't change a damn thing about the ban list, or you know, I wouldn't change a damn thing about the format, except for one thing, since you guys really just wanted to know. I'm not gonna look at it from my perspective. I'm not going to look at it from Konami's perspective, because Konami is a business, and respectively, they have their set conduct and codes of rules that they have to follow by in order to keep their business profitable. I'm going to look at the player base. How would this benefit nothing but the player base? I don't give a shit about sales. I don't give a shit about your prediction. I don't give a shit about this. Consequently, I don't give a fuck about what you guys think about this list, because ultimately it's my opinion, and I live in a free country, and I am subject to think whatever I want to think. But that's beside the point. If you guys haven't noticed, the TheCaliEffect is just changing all types of times. I mean, it's near Christmas. People keep hitting me with that Christmas struggle, like, Merry Christmas, and I'm like, bruh. Anyways, like I said, I wouldn't change a damn thing about the list. So when we get to my Forbidden List, nothing is forbidden. Oh my god, all you swag fags that has been screaming for banning Vanity's Emptiness and you know, Kaiser Coliseum and Judgment Dragon and all these uber powerful cards, quote unquote, you guys can go, I don't know, maybe you guys really need to reassess how this game is played, because if you guys did not know, floodgate cards, I mean, not only do they both work both ways if you build your deck to prepare yourself for success effectively. For example, Vanity's Emptiness is a very powerful card, but Trap Stun does exist. Now, you can't really use that argument for, you know, X card should be off the list because X card exists, but at the same note, we know that Trap Stun is an extremely good card. We know that Trap Stun not only stops Vanity's Emptiness, but it stops a numerous of situations. So overall, it's just a really good card. We also know when the opponent Vanity's Emptiness and we activate Trap Stun, and then we counter flood them, and we get over their monsters, they're locked by their own Vanity's Emptiness. So it's like, I mean, it's almost obvious. Vanity's Emptiness is a card that can be easily played around with, other than the cards on the list. So, I mean, I do feel like Vanity's Emptiness needs to be addressed for the format that I'm trying to play, but other than that, no. Limited would be Rescue Kitty. So let me go up and get a picture of Rescue Cat. And yes, this is a long video, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, ladies and gentlemen. Rescue Cat, for you guys that did not know, is probably one of my favorite cards of all time. Its effect reads: you can send this face-up card to the graveyard to special summon 2 level 3 or lower beast monsters from your deck. Those monsters are destroyed during the end phase. Now, Rescue Cat was banned consequently because it provided so many really good combos to decks like X-Sabers, and I can't remember any other decks that used Rescue Cat, but X-Sabers and a deck called Synchro Cat. Synchro Cat was a very dominant deck for its day, being able to go into cards like Arcanite Magician at any given time, and You know, just being able to make a lot of nice synchro plays. Dark Strike Fighter used to play a part in this deck, and it just used to be a really good deck. Nowadays, I feel like Rescue Cat can help a lot of decks that aren't competitive and still not even push them over the edge. So in essence, I feel that Rescue Cat isn't a game-breaking card that it used to be. There's a plethora of decks that Rescue Cat can still help, which is Madolches, X-Sabers, uh, Raccoons. Like, I think that there's a lot of decks. All of those decks that I just stated are suboptimal against the meta right now. And with this list I'm trying to do, I'm not trying to hinder any decks right now. I'm trying to bring them all up to the same level of competitiveness, which how I feel Yu-Gi-Oh should be played. Because I mean, I want to be able to pick up fucking X deck and still be able to, you know, win a tournament with it, with a deck with a game full of Burning Abyss, Quillfort X. And I feel once people get more options to how to play the deck, decks will be less represented. For example, in the last YCS or last major event, if I can recall correctly, Burning Abyss took up 23%. I repeat, 23% of players playing Burning Abyss. A next huge portion, I believe it was either anywhere between 14, I believe 20% was Quillfort. So already half of the people, just under half of the people were playing two types of decks. Whereas if we could actually play Yu-Gi-Oh in real life, everybody plays a certain deck. Side decks obviously become a lot less than, let's just say side decks become a lot more situational. You have to think about when side decking and deck building. And it's a lot more fun to sit down in the tournament and play Madolches one round, then Quillfort, then Burning Abyss, then Shadows, and then Lightsworn. And, you know, just being able to play all these multitude of decks. That's how I personally feel the game should be played. But we already know from a business perspective, Konami doesn't want to do that. They want to make money. The net card, yes, I did put Vanity's Emptiness to 1 for all you swag fags. Now, for the people that did not know Vanity's Emptiness, I didn't put it Vanity's Emptiness to 1 necessarily for its effect, not because I think, you know, it's overpowered or anything. I put Vanity's Emptiness to 1 for a safety net, because I didn't want anybody to think of some ultrally powerful strategy within this list and then being able to summon all these powerful monsters and Vanity's Emptiness opponent, because nobody wants to not play Yu-Gi-Oh at that same time. But if the format does check out under these implications, then Vanity's Emptiness can very much well go back to 3. Just because Vanity's Emptiness isn't, I think it's a really good card. I think it's one of the best cards in the game. But then at the same time, I don't think that it warrants any type of limit whatsoever, just because of its balance. And yes, it is an extremely balanced card. Next on the list is Sinister Serpent. Now, Sinister Serpent's an aqua card. I mean, and I feel that bringing Sinister Serpent back now has more of an impact than bringing Sinister Serpent out anywhere between now or last format and the next 5 years ago. Why? Because Burning Abyss actually would probably abuse this card. Actually, now that I think about it, I wouldn't even see Burning Abyss abusing this card, because, I mean, why would I want to discard Sinister Serpent when I can discard my Burning Abyss monsters? So it's like, I mean, I can't really see them even using this card still. But I feel that, you know, cards like Phoenix Swirling Blast, Karma Cut, and stuff like that, they're extremely good cards. And the only deck that can fully abuse those really good trap cards, arguably some of the best trap cards in the game, is Burning Abyss, because they can mitigate the cost of discarding cards from your hand with the floater-like effects of the Burning Abyss monsters. Well, Sinister Serpent doesn't really help much, really, at all. Like, not really anything. But I just felt that it was nice to give people a card that, you know, like, for example, if I'm playing Geargian and I'm playing obvious cards that I can use Phoenix Swirling Blast, like I actually mainboard Phoenix Swirling Blast, I still probably wouldn't play Sinister Serpent, but it's nice to have it as a consideration. That, and I see the card as nowhere near broke whatsoever, not even game-breaking, changing the format. I know some swag facts are going to come out of nowhere like, Sinister Serpent is broken, and I'm going to look at them like, bruh. So, anyways, I mean, that's really about it with Sinister Serpent. The next card would be Dark Magician of Chaos. I mean, and like I said, it's a lot of swag facts that are going to be like, TheCaliEffect, you're going to bring this card back when Raigeki and Dark Hole are at what? Like, come on, really, bro? Who really gives a shit about Raigeki and Dark Hole at this point in time? I mean, you take apart Raigeki, Dark Hole, and Soul Charge, what else can D-Mock really bring back to your hand that'll be game breaking? And still at the same time, Soul Charge isn't game breaking. Raigeki is mediocre against top decks, which probably, I mean, at the same time, it probably would have to be addressed the way that I'm going on the format. But then at the same time, double Raigeking your opponent isn't really necessarily like, oh my god, it's like the worst thing in the world. Double Raigeking your opponent is just like, hey, you fucking double Raigeki. And also we have to think about what decks can really support DMOC. I can see... I'd probably play it in Prophecy. I mean, with a lot of work, I guess Burning can play it with a lot of work. And then they'll be able to recurse. Yeah, now you guys are starting to see my point why DMOC isn't the, you know, best cards in Slight Bread. I mean, Shadows can play it, but it's... They'll get Owl Shadow Fusion that they're supposed to get back anyways with their Construct or Wind Up. So now we're starting to see why I'm like, okay, DMOC is just one of those cards. I feel like Konami can only bring back certain amount of cards per year, or their business strategy allows them to bring back certain cards. And there's a lot on this list that, in my opinion, just sit there for no reason. I can't think of a single reason why DMOC still deserves to be on this list, other than I guess he creates a couple loops that the loop card should be addressed and not DMOC. For example, I believe there was a Soul Absorption. Well, I guess DMOC would have been the problem. It was like a Soul Absorption Cyber Valley loop where you can keep on banishing DMOC and gaining life points. Like, who really gives a shit? And then there was an Exodia FTK one where I genuinely feel that win conditions should never exist. If it was up to me, I would put all win conditions to 0. Like, and then we have, you know, no problem right there. Obviously, and on top of that, the win condition, the draw condition was just so stupid. It was so impossible. Like, none of those cards were searchable. So, I mean, just another one of those reasons where Konami just fucks up. Next 2-1 would be actually, yeah, I'm gonna talk about this right now. All of the babies, all of them. Now I know you guys are like, TheCaliEffect, are you like, what kind of crack are you smoking? You guys have to keep in mind what I said about this list. Can I go back twice, please? You guys have to keep in mind what I said about this list. I want to make every deck competitive. And obviously, Dragon Rulers were trying to be a thing, or Konami tried to be a thing with Dragon Rulers. So, I mean, it's only fair that if I'm bringing back all these other cards, I have to bring back these cards as well. Dragon Rulers are actually a very interesting thing that I had to put a lot of concept into, because we have to remember Dragon Rulers was the best deck of all time, hands down, period. No swag, nothing can beat it. But then at the same time, the game has evolved to a point in time where maybe the Dragon Rulers aren't as good as we think they are. We only have a memory of what we think they are because of the format that they ran, not the format that they're being introduced to under this list. You guys understand what I'm saying? I can just name a couple of cards. I really think Burning Abyss would just be like, oh, that's very interesting. I mean, I think it would give Burning Abyss probably, I think it would actually give Burning Abyss the most problems, but Burning Abyss is like, alright. Well, I mean, now we have to actually think for, you know, different types of outs. We can't run all these Karma Cuts and Phoenix when we blast, or, you know, just maybe even these Fire Lakes. Like, we have to think just a little different to change the Burning Abyss. Shadows, I think, have no problem against this deck. I mean, a Wind Up with back row is the only thing that would genuinely take to, like, just completely shut out Dragon Ruler. Full Fort at the same time, I think Full Fort would just probably laugh at Dragon Rulers, and then kind of cry when they flip them skill drain against Dragon Rulers, but then laugh again because their monsters are stronger anyways. I didn't, like I said, I didn't know exactly what to do with Dragon Rulers, but I definitely wanted them to be competitive, but not too competitive. I didn't want them to take over the format like how the top 3 decks have. So I decided to bring all of the babies back to 1. And obviously there's another one that I want to talk about that involves the Dragon Rulers, but doesn't really count. Next is Pot of Greed. Now, this is when I kind of got, this card can stay banned, this card can come back, it really doesn't matter. But this is where I kind of got crazy. Pot of Greed is I can't even say an interesting card, because its effect is just like, it's the card with the least amount of text that is banned on the ban list. Hell, it's probably the card with the least amount of text. Like, they literally wasted time making that big ass fucking space for a card that just says draw 2 cards. Like, that's stupid. But Pot of Greed is definitely one of those cards that I would like to see kind of back, maybe, just because its effect is kind of simple. It's like, it doesn't have the bearing on what it used to be. Like, for example, you guys remember how Raigeki was, like, really powerful back in 2003? Raigeki's shitty. And granted, Pot of Greed is a totally different situation. It doesn't really require any implications. You open up with Pot of Greed, you're fine. But at the same time, it's just +1. Like, genuinely, it really is just +1. +1. That's all it really says. And I'm kind of fine with that. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, it's a little bit of a deck thinner. It's better than Upstart, and it says +1. Then at the same time, I would really want to ban Exodia for just this reason of Pot of Greed. DMOC, I mean, I already raised the same speculation. DMOC and Pot of Greed, I mean, congratulations. You special summon DMOC and you grab Pot of Greed again. Now, if there's a loop, then obviously we probably need to dress Pot of Greed, but I mean, that's beside the point either. Next on the list is Spellbook Judgment. Now, you guys have seen Spellbook Judgment on my last list, but the reason why it's not, or why it's on this list, is for a completely different reason. I do feel like Spellbook Judgment does deserve to be back off the list. It is not broken, in my opinion. It is a very balanced card to a very balanced team. Now, when you have multiple Spellbook of Judgments and multiple Spellbooks of Fate, then obviously we get a little drastic. But I feel that one Spellbook of Judgment, one Spellbook of Fate is perfect. It's exactly what Prophecy needs, and they can YOLO swag with it. I don't think that it puts them over edge, and at the same time, I think it keeps them extremely competitive and consistent with the decks that I've just been getting mad support from this ban list that I just so happen to pull out of my ass. So, I mean, you guys kind of feeling what I'm saying with Spellbook of Judgment right there? Next, I know you guys are going to hate me, Wind-Up Carrier. And for some reason, I've been taking a liking to wind-ups for some time. And when Wind-Up Carrier, I think I mean Zen Meaty. Yeah, I mean Zen Meaty. Yeah, Wind-Up Carrier, Zen Meaty. Wind-ups are bad. And I feel, even if I did make wind-ups full power, with Shockmaster banned, and, you know, the wind-up loop being pretty bad against Dragon Rulers and Burning Abyss and Shaddolls, I would feel comfortable with everything the 3. But, like I said, I want to test instead of, you know, just delving into it. I brought back Carrier Zen Meaty to 1 because it serves one purpose for windups. Special summons windups for the deck. It lets them get loopy. It lets them do all this other stuff. It lets them exceed and go into any of these possible rank 3, 4s, or 5 monsters, which don't break the game. Really good? Yes. Game breaking? No. And that's the reason why Wind-Up Carrier Zen Meaty is at 1. Next on my list, Gateway of the Six Samurai. Now, like I said, I got nutty with this card, or with this list. Gateway of the Six Samurai is a controversial card because it creates a loop. There's a loop with Gateway of the Six Samurai. You need Gateway and 2 other cards that hold counters, and you can FTK your opponent, or Gaga Cowboy, or you can completely wipe out their hand with Evil Swarm Ouroboros. It requires Gateway, 2 counters. I don't necessarily remember how it goes. I just remember it's a very easy combo with Gateway and 2 cards that hold counters, and you just keep on looping Kizan to make rank 4 plays. But then at the same time, Gateway's at 1. Like, I'm bringing it back to 1. I'm not bringing it back to 3. I would bring it back to 3 and change, like, how it's worded or whatever. But so far, I think 1 is just perfectly fine. It's, like, really good just at 1. It gives 6 Samurais the boost that they need. And they'll still, I'm pretty sure they'll probably still be trash. But, I mean, hey, you can't say that, 6 Samurai players, you can't say I didn't go out of my way to give you guys something. Alright, now that we're, like, 18 minutes in and I'm still just on Forbidden, let's just hurry up and get to semi-limited. On the semi-limited list, yay, the Dragon Rulers. So, I guess I'll just use Blaster for this. Now, you guys are still looking at me like, the fuck, TheCaliEffect? Why are the babies at 1 and the big guys at 2? You guys, it's extremely hard for me to even say anything about the Dragon Rulers moving down or up or needing a list, mainly because half of the players are butthurt, and then the other half of the players just want it back so bad that they'll take anything they can get. For the butthurt players, Dragon Rulers, it's just a lot to be said about them. This is more of a test zone than anything else. I mean, keep your panties in a bunch. This isn't the TheCaliEffect's predictions. This is the TheCaliEffect's wants list. This is actually a list striving for an ideal ban list where every deck can be competitive, that obviously the ban list is touch. I'm sorry, I can't bring stuff off the ban list to make your Amazonas deck really good or your Ice Barrier deck really good. I'm sorry. Trishul Embryonic does not make Ice Barrier decks good. They just make other decks good and still keep Ice Barriers and other decks trash. Dragon Rulers they're good. I'm not going to deny that. They were the best deck of all time for a format, even though they were contested by another deck. I mean, not really, but really. Dragon Rulers are really good at what they do, but the only problem is you guys have to look at the stuff that I left on the list, you know, just as a safety precaution. Card Destruction, Dragon's Ravine, Super Rejuvenation, all of those cards were very important for the Dragon Ruler deck to thrive. And we could look at what the OCG did to Dragon Rulers. They did have theirs respectively at 2, and we will never know what happened past that, because kind of like before the Shadows and everything else came out, they hit the Dragon Rulers. So it would still be extremely nice to know how would Dragon Rulers in this limited space capacity that you could play Dragon Rulers in fare against decks like Quill Fort, Burning Abyss, Shadow, and the other decks that I'm bringing off the list to be competitive. Also, when Necro's coming out, it'd be extremely, it would be something to watch, to see these Dragon Rulers, this old Dragon Ruler deck compete against the newer decks and see where it kind of matches up. And if it's still too powerful, obviously you have to address it then. And if it's not powerful enough, then give it just a little bit more. It's not like Dragon Rulers don't have necessarily a whole list to themselves. I apologize for that one. Next on the list is Wind Up Magician. Now, like I said, Wind Ups are getting all of the support through this list, and I know you guys are gonna be like, oh no, when does all Wind Ups get all the support? Because they're ass. Their loops suck. I'm sorry. It's just Shockmaster's banned, and I don't plan on bringing Shockmaster back, so all of the Wind Ups can come to 5, and they still probably wouldn't be competitive. That's, you know, the problem with Wind Ups right there. They're just toys. Wind Up Magician had really big implications in the format that it was in. It, like I said, it helped create a Wind Up loop where you can discard a majority of cards in your opponent's hand. It had another loop where it could just make Shockmaster first turn. So Wind Ups definitely have a lot of things that, you know, bring to the plate that are obviously really, really good. The only problem with both of those loops, first, Wind Up's Zen Carrier is at 1. Okay, not only is Carrier at 1, nuking your opponent's hand is not the best thing to do right now, especially if you're playing against like Burning Abyss, Shadows, like I've said before, or any other deck that's just like loves you sending cards to the graveyard. Not only that, it's highly inconsistent. Pot of Avarice is still banned on top of that, so you know you're not really getting that much for it. Also, you start off with 5 cards and not 6. I think that would be really, you know, just something that I should throw out there. You know, people say that, you know, the one card really doesn't matter if you want to go first. Well, for Wind Ups, that one card could be the difference between drawing your inconsistent loop that might not be good against a tier deck, and you know, kind of drawing it, and then it still might not be good against your opponent. So yes, Wind Up Magician can probably go to 3. So can Carriers and Maybe. They both probably can go to 3. But just for safety precautions, I would like to see Wind Ups get played at 2 and 1. Hopefully it would be able to, you know, play some part in the Wind Up meta, or in the meta, because Wind Ups necessarily aren't even an ill-designed deck. They seem designed fairly well, with Magician's Effect only being able to use once while it's face up. So just about every Wind Up card, for the exception of Shark, I guess, and then, you know, Rabbit being able to banish the Wind Up monsters. Then they have like a reinforcement of the army that you have to use your Wind Up Effect monsters to get. Like, Wind Ups don't seem like a deck that will destroy any type of meta anytime soon, and that's why I was like, whatever, I'll just put them at whatever they want to be. Oh, last one is Gear. Now, I hear a lot of just stupidity with Gear, period. First of all, they say that Gear is a worse version of Satellanite. Now, I shake my head to these people because they obviously don't remember anything about Gear or anything about that Geargias are machine. Geargias have the potential to be vastly stronger than Satellanite, whereas Satellanite, you have to stick to just pretty much playing Satellanite. You can't even really play Constellars with Satellanite. But Geargias, you can play just about anything in there. You can play Geargia Card Carrier, you can play Machina Geargia, you can play Pure Geargia, you can play so many other things. And Geargia actually was one of those cards, one of their backbone cards that they had, that allowed them to bring so much advantage to the field for free. Kind of like what Deneb does, what Altair does. And they have that in Gear. They actually have a really good strategy when they have Gear at more than one, so they can actually play their little guys successfully. And Geargias do a lot of great things. I think that you really don't need to put Gear at 3 because there's stupid plays you can make with gear. Like there's OTK type plays you can make with gear. But at the same time, I did want it to make gear as competitive as possible, while not breaking it over the meta. So I feel that 2 gear, possibly even 3 gear could be healthy for diverse metagame. And that's pretty much going to sum up semi-limited. I guess the biggest thing we're going to talk about is limited. And now we're going to make the Butthurt become really real with unlimited. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit. So, oops. Fire Fist Spirit. Go get it for me. Is it going to pop up? Oh, sweet. I actually got it. Well, got close. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit was put to 1 for a lot of great reasons. I feel like I played a huge part to that at Worlds, when, you know, they were kind of watching and everything, you know, they were like, oh, let's hit Dragon Rulers, and then it was like, let's hit Spirit too. Fire Fist are that deck that got destroyed before they even got a real time to shine. Their time that they were shining, it was actually a Rabbit deck. And then they got all of their support during the Dragon Ruler format. And the Dragon Ruler was like, nope, no playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For you. And then afterward, they got hit just about after. You guys want to call it +1 Fire Fist deck, or +1 whatever that trash is, where you run just 3 Tinkies and 3 Tinkies, 3 Bear, and 3 Wolfmark? That's not Fire Fist. This is Fire Fist. And ultimately, you can't play Fire Fist without Spirit. I mean, I can't have a body without a Spirit. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit is a very key card to playing the real Fire Fist, mainly because it allows you to make your rank 3 plays in Lion Emperor, it allows you to make your level 6 synchro plays in Horse Prince, and it allows you to effectively flow through the deck, actually being able to play the deck. In that essence, I believe once they get Fire Fist Spirit, I could probably play Fire Fist competitively again and just annihilate people. Like, it'll actually be really good games to see Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Spirit at 3 or 2, even 2. I mean, because I probably would only play 2 anyways, because I don't know. Well, it would definitely have to be testing, but this is a card that I've actually personally would drool over seeing anything more than 1. I feel that it wouldn't necessarily break any type of metagame. I feel that it would make Fire Fist extremely competitive again. You know, able to have 2 almost themed junk synchrons that allow them to make their 3 plays, their 6 synchros, their 4 plays, and just being able to really make pushes into the game. Now, obviously, they still have bad matchups like Shuttles and Burning Abyss, possibly even Quillfort with main board skill drain. So, like, it's just a lot of, bad matchups that Fire Fist could have inherently just by playing Fire Fist. But then at the same time, it's definitely a really strong deck, a deck that I can really see as a contender. Next is Dark Strike Fighter, the card that has become complete ass. And as you guys did not know, I mean, I like completely put it to 3. I'm not going to go through the gay Konami thing, we're just going to put it at 1 to see how it goes. Then we're going to put it, no. Just put the damn thing to 3. It's not doing anything. It's horrible. Dark Strike Fighter was once an extremely good card, and now it's been errata, like, completely. So, there's no Dark Strike Fighter FTKs running around, especially since you have to, it has to be activated during your main phase 1. So, yeah, and you only can use Dark Strike Fighter's effect once per turn. I can think of 11 other level 7 synchros that I'd rather play with Dark Strike Fighter. Dark Strike Fighter is not one of those 11. Not even Strike Fighter is one of them. So, yeah, Dark Strike Fighter is definitely a card that can be at 3. Nobody gives a shit. Where are we at next? Next on the list is Mermail Abyss Gun. Now, as you guys have seen, this is not... I don't think that this was the dagger. Well, it probably was. I would actually consider this the dagger into Mermails. Konami just turned around and just, like, backstabbed Mermail. Like, oh, we love you, Mermail. We love you. Then turned around. Bam. Mermail Abyss Gun to 1. So I'm going to bring it back to 2. 3. 2. Well, they only needed 2, so 3. Mermail Abyss Gun helped out Mermails for quite some time. It's like, it's their really big play. It's their revival card. It's how they are able to make certain level 7s and, be able to successfully play the deck. Granted, you can still really play Mermails extremely good with Gun to 1, but as you guys can see, I kind of like brought Dragon Rulers back, I brought Spellbooks back. I've upped these decks' game, so I mean, I kind of have to up Mermail's game to keep up with the big 3 decks. I feel that the best way to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Is to have an even base. Well, instead of hitting everything appropriately, let the damn deck play how it's supposed to play. Mermails are supposed to play like Mermails. I mean, they're water. they're monsters coming from the sea. Why? I mean, and this card was not like, it wasn't even game breaking when it got limited. If you guys are kind of catching my drift, it was a really good card. I'll give you that. And it does make real players think a lot different when it won, but it did not destroy people's lives. With like, people didn't. I don't even think people complained over Gun. Like that's what's so bad about it. With Gun to 3 and Title to 2, Mermails are like live and kicking. I think that they would be a really big contender, and just being able to go through a lot of decks and be able to play a lot of decks effectively. I really do like this upcoming, or this format that we've had, because I wouldn't have been able to think this way without this format. This format has definitely shown us power creep, but then at the same time, if we think effectively, it allows us to bring out all the older decks and allow them to have their recent power creep, or their deck at their hypest time, to come back and be able to compete against these decks, because these top 3 decks right now are just that powerful. Next is Infernity Archfiend. I mean, to be honest with you guys know it and I know it. This card was only hit because it won Worlds. I mean that's really it. Even with Soul Charge at 3, Archfiend at 3, you know, everything that Konami did hit for Infernities were still ass. So I mean, I don't see a real big reason. I mean, a part of me wanted to bring Soul Charge back, but then I started thinking, and that's not a good idea with all the cards that I'm bringing back. That's like pretty bad. Soul Charge would be the epitome of broken, with, you know, it at 3, and then I was trying to bring Lonefire Blossom to 3. Then I started thinking, I was like, wait, TheCaliEffect, you gotta wait right there. So just Infernity Archfiend to 3. You get to keep your Soul Charge at 1. Infernity is still a very viable deck. I don't think that they'll be competitive in any way, shape, or form without some support. But, I mean, that's just how the cookie crumbles, and on top of that, that's just my opinion. Glow Bulb to 1, I'm not even going to go over that. Konami just has this stupid thing that they do, like with Spore. Let's bring Spore to 1. It's a once per duel effect. Don't be dumb, Konami. Next, Reborn Tengu to 3. I really feel that I shouldn't talk about this one, but I'll talk about it now because I can feel the butthurt from people coming. When Reborn Tengu was good, I believe I was still in high school. That should say a lot. It's either I was 1 year removed from high school or I was still in high school. That's a long ass time ago. Shit, Xyz didn't even exist. I think we were in the middle. We were in the middle of Synchro Summon. So why the fuck would you think this card would be game breaking? Add one more copy than what it is already. Granted, Synchros have gotten a lot powerful. There have been a lot of other great Synchros that have come out. But I still don't think that warrants Reborn Tengu going, you know, like staying where it's at. I just feel that it's just one of those cards that is just like, Konami, you fucked up. Why is this still on the list? I mean, don't get me wrong, Reborn Tengu is a really good card, and this is probably like the best list for Reborn Tengu to be in, with, you know, Lonefire Blossom at 2, Spore at 3, or whatever it is. You only use one Spore anyways. Dandelion off the list, and, you know, I mean, I'd actually push more towards Lonefire Blossom going to 3 and Dandelion going to 2, but like I said, more of this list is trial and error rather than just like, hey, let's free roam with everything. So, I mean, ultimately, Reborn Tengu is just not that great of a card that it used to be. It's a really good card, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's just not that great of a card. Let's just not even talk about it. Heretic Seal of Convocation. Yes, you guys are gonna be like, oh no, this card. I feel like this card has been going back and forth from the forbidden list to, from limited to 2 to limited to unlimited to limited to 2 to unlimited. Just fucking pick a fucking side. My side is to 3. Why? Because should I really have to keep on telling you guys it's so other decks will be able to compete with bigger decks without me hitting the bigger decks because the bigger decks don't need to be hit? I mean, I think that's my thought process throughout this whole video. Next, Neospatian, Grand Mole, and Gladiator Beast with Starry. Those two can be put together. I really feel that it's in the Reborn Tengu category. Like, Gladiator Beasts were definitely good when I was in high school. And Grand Mole, I mean, we've moved so much more past our normal summon. Sometimes we don't even normal summon. And Pendulums are a thing now, and they're starting to become a lot better than when we first had them. So, none of them are, just really good. Gladiator Beast is just one of those cards that I feel Konami should really make a public statement saying they fucked up. Like, look, this card has been on the list for X amount of time, and it should have been on the list for X amount of time. We fucked up, because they genuinely did when they kept a card like Gladiator Beast Mastari. Like, really? Gladiator Beast Mastari? I can name you several formats where Gladiator Beast Mastari would have had no relevance. And even with Gladiator Beast Mastari at 3, Gladiator Beast still won't be relevant. Like, come on now. I mean, yes, you have your Test Tiger plate. It makes geysers. Ooh. Burning Abyss do the exact same thing and plus off of it, with little to no setup compared to what Gladiator Beast have to go through. So it's like, okay. Some good honorable mentions. I think I had 3. Dragon Ravine. I really wanted to see Dragoonides actually, you know, be able to compete. But then at the same time, I did just bring all the dragons back, so it's like, kind of watch where you step right there. I would rather see Dragon Rulers competitive than Dragoonides competitive, just because of the essence that Dragon Rulers can make Dragoonides competitive even without Ravine. And on top of that, Dragoonides are like Insectors. They're, well, no, Dragoonides actually have something going on for them. But another thing while I'm here is why I didn't put Insectors on. Personally, this is my personal thoughts. Butthurt Insector players, prepare to feel it. I have some salt in the kitchen that I can bring you, or I have some fries in the kitchen that I can bring to you guys, because I'm going to need that salt. Insectors were probably the most ill-designed monsters in the game, period. They are the worst designing ever. They allow you to plus off of your opponent playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I don't know if you guys think that's fair, but I don't think that that's fair in any way, shape, or form. And I'm going to give you a perfect example. Insectors would do horrible against Gopher. Insectors would do horrible against Shadow. Insectors would probably do pretty bad against Burning Abyss. Those are the 3 decks that it would. Which would, you guys would kind of probably lean more towards, okay, why can't it come back? But the design of Insectors, I can look through all of these cards and I can see flaws in their design for the most part. Insectors are just completely flawed. Like, they need some type of rewording for them to come back, or even just a once per turn clause on both of their monsters effects, or, you know, so it can't apply. Not once per turn you can use this card effect, more like this effect can only be used once per turn. Then hell yeah, they can all come to 3. But my personal opinion, Insectors are extremely flawed. It's a horrible mechanic. It's just one of the worst thoughts to ever put in the deck, period. Red Eyes Darkness Battle is the exact same reason why Dragon Ravine, I don't know where I stand on that card. Trishula is like, it's one of those ill-designed cards. One of those cards, hey, you synchroed, good job, now you get to take away your opponent's resources. And, I mean, at the same time, I'm not feeling that, but then I've watched the OCG kind of closely, and I see that Trishula doesn't do anything. It's a very balanced card in their meta, but we're playing 2 completely different card games, so that, and on top of that, I'm giving everybody else the whole world in their hands. I think Trishula can stay at where it's at, because it's not necessarily helping in that. One of the last cards is being Thousand Eyes Restrict. Thousand Eyes Restrict is good. It's just really good, especially with Instant Fusion at 1. It's a card that I would thought about, but then with Formula Synchron, Instant Fusion, Glow Bulb, and all this other stuff, it'd be very fun to see at 1, but then it's like, next would be Tribe Infecting Virus. Really good card. And Fishboard Blaster, another one of those ill-designed cards that I personally feel, if it just said you can only use this effect, you can only gain this card's effect once per turn, maybe. But Fishboard Blaster is just, it's not bad, but then at the same time, it's one of those juggling effects. So I really hope you guys enjoyed me ranting on YouTube about the ban list for 40 minutes. If you guys don't like the list, then go ahead and post your list and say how bad my list is, because that's exactly what I said at the beginning of the video. I care. Thank you guys for watching though. Please like, comment, subscribe, but most of all, enjoy.